right, so I want to give my thoughts, the post-fight thoughts on the Wilder Fury rematch. So let's start off like this. Let's talk about Tyson Fury. All right. So I started watching, Tyson Fury way back in the day, like maybe 10 years ago, when he first turned pro. I started watching him. I saw highlights of him at the time, like about 2010, 2011. And when I first saw him, what I thought was, okay, that guy has a lot of good qualities for a fighter. Like, he has the grit. He looked like he had the heart. He also, when he chose to, he has good, decent skills. But I thought that he's a person that's just not dedicated, because of the way he looked and the way he acted. I was like, this guy is a knucklehead. He's like this tough guy. He comes from that, tough guy gypsy background. They're not really, they're not. I mean, not all gypsies, of course. I'm not trying to generalize or shit on anybody, but they just didn't seem like, he had that athlete's work ethic. He didn't look like it at the time. But he kept on winning, he kept on scraping by. He had some tough fights early on, but he kept on winning, he kept on winning. And whenever the opposition started getting better, he'd show up, like he'd get better. Like against Derek Chisora, he fought very well, even like you'd see him adjusting and stepping up his game midway through the fight. That was the thing that I came to realize later on, that this guy actually, he fights to the level of opposition. He rises to the occasion. That's the type of fighter that he is. He's kind of like James Toney in a way. And then the somehow they made it to a title fight against Vladimir Klitschko. But at that time, I was like, okay, he might step up to the plate. I saw videos of him leading up to the fight. His physique looked tremendous. I was like, this guy, he's stepping up big time for this fight. But I think that Vladimir is just too skilled and too experienced and too dedicated, really, and too disciplined to get into all of that, to fall into his mind games and all of the stuff that Tyson was doing at the time. He's too focused. He's gonna get in there. He's gonna execute the game plan, and he's probably gonna put, Tyson down a couple of times. He's been knocked down by lesser opponents. He's been knocked down by Steve Cunningham, who was a cruiserweight. So I was like, he's just Vladimir Klitschko is just gonna set him up for the right hand with his experience. I knew that they sparred before, or at least they were in the same gym before. I was pretty sure that they were very familiar with each other. Also, like the trainer of Vladimir Klitschko, I think, was at the Kronk gym. I think it was Jonathan Banks at the time. I'm not really sure, but these people knew each other, and I thought that because they knew each other's, Vladimir was going to be able to to have a decent game plan, to get in there, execute that game plan, fight a disciplined fight, and put Tyson Fury down a couple of times and win an easy fight. Completely wrong prediction, completely wrong assessment. Lost money on the fight. Tyson Fury won easily. He got in there, he outboxed the hell out of Vladimir Klitschko. He landed a couple of good power shots later in the fight, and he did a fantastic job that night. And I thought to myself, okay, I was completely wrong about that guy. He came into the fight in tremendous shape. He fought a disciplined fight. He didn't do anything stupid. He fought in a completely different way than he talked before the fight. He talked big. He talked mad shit before this fight. And he really surprised me, and I never saw that in a million years that he had that in him. And he did it, and then the rematch came. And they signed to fight the rematch, and we all know what happened there. Tyson started, having this mental breakdown that he's had, and he ballooned up in weight. And during the lead up to the fight, I was watching him closely, and I was like, this guy is not okay. What is going on here? And then he pulled out of the fight. And then, there were a lot of things. I don't really remember if he pulled out, but if he got banned because he had that steroid thing on his ass also. This Nandorol shit, the steroid shit, and also the cocaine. They found cocaine in his blood. And I was like, okay, this guy is a one-hit wonder. This validates everything I've been saying about him all along. He's just managed to get his shit together for one fight. And we've seen this 1,000 times in the sport of boxing, you know? Where fighters just, you know, the fighters that are not dedicated, they somehow manage to just put it together for one fight when it matters the most. And then that's it. They lose interest. We've seen that 1,000,000 times in the sport. And I thought that was a classic case of that, you know? And normally these fighters just never make it back really to the big time. They scrape by to get a couple of paydays and then they retire and they're famous for one fight and that's it. Like Buster Douglas, for example, you know, someone like that, like Frankie Randall, you know, people like that. So anyways, years go by, he is a mess, mental health issues, psychological issues, you know, health issues, weight issues, all kinds of issues was on this man's ass. He comes back, you know, and I was like, this guy is an emotional mess, you know. I'm not really sure if he's gonna be able to do anything. I think it's just the money's running out. The money's running out with this guy, and he's just looking for a payday, right? So he got in there and he fought two guys, you know, two tune-ups, two guys that he, you know, that were definitely very low, but he deserved these fights. He should have had these fights. He should have had more fights at that level to get himself back in shape, right? So he went in 2 fights and then he started to find Deontay Wilder, and the negotiations were kind of easy. And I was like, okay, that also validates my point that, you know, he is looking for a payday, right? He just wants to do anything he could to get a payday and get out of the sport, right? Again, totally wrong with this guy, you know? He is so unpredictable. This guy, it's unbelievable. He gets in there, man, and he puts, in my opinion, with all things considered, right? What the hell he went through that year leading up to the fight, was losing the weight, battling his own demons, getting his life back together, going into that fight and fighting that fight. He put on a masterclass. He put on a clinic as far as I'm concerned. He exposed Deontay Wilder big time, even more than Luis Ortiz. It was unbelievable. I was sitting there, you know, I never thought that I would be rooting for Tyson Fury like that. I was screaming. I was really rooting for him to win, and I thought that he won clearly. They robbed him, and his reaction after the fight impressed me just as much as his performance during the fight, because he didn't look like he mentioned that he was robbed, of course, but he also looked like, you know, he has himself together emotionally and mentally. He was like, okay, they robbed me out of the biggest comeback in the history of the sport, but it's okay, we'll be back. We're gonna see Mr. Wilder again. And I like that, you know. That's a sign that you're dealing with a real fighter, that, you know, a warrior's mentality. That's what I like, you know. No excuses. It didn't work that time. We're gonna work on things. We're gonna come back. We're gonna leave. No doubt about it. All right. That's what champions do. That's what champions do. That's why I've been telling the story till now. How long I've been rambling for, like, what, 8 minutes now? I've been rambling about the history of Tyson Fury because I want to get to that point. Tyson Fury is a true champion, right? He didn't make excuses. He could have made any kind of excuse. He could have said anything, right? There are a lot of things that he could have talked about. He didn't. Went in there, fought a good fight, didn't get the decision, went back to the drawing board, right? Now, Deontay Wilder himself started making excuses and started, you know, behaving in what I would say like in a knucklehead way. I didn't like that, you know, after the first fight. I was like, you know, he was like, I knocked him out already, you know, the count was long, this or that or the other, I was too light, I was sick in the lead up to the fight, all of that bullshit, right? That I just don't like that, you know. This is not a fighter's mentality. You better man up, because this is a man's sport, you know. And if you don't man up and work on the things, you know, that set you back, you're not gonna get anywhere in the sport, right? At least in the ring. And they got in. I mean, a year went by and they signed to fight again. Tyson Fury, he was like, even though I boxed beautifully in the first fight and deserved the win, they didn't give it to me. I have to knock Deontay Wilder out. And nobody believed in him. I believe that him backing Deontay Wilder up is the best game plan that he could ever come up with, because Deontay Wilder can't fight going backwards worth a damn. He can't fight going backwards to save his life, right? You have to come at him, but you have to come at him in an educated manner, right? And honestly, what I thought the game plan was going to be was for Tyson Fury to get in there, land a couple of power shots early, get Deontay Wilder's respect, and then start to drain Deontay Wilder, like basically pull a rope-a-dope like Muhammad Ali did. What he did was he just standing there on the ropes, conserve his energy, and whenever George Foreman would come at him, he'd grab him and pull him down. He'd just grab on him and pull him down, grab him and pull him down, And in Tyson Fury's case, he could do that more because he's a lot heavier, right? So he doesn't have to stay on the ropes and wait for Deontay Wilder to come at him and then grab him and lean on him. He could actually also go forward and lean on Deontay Wilder. And that's what I expected him to do, right? One of them, he just use his weight, just be too close so that Deontay Wilder doesn't have space to extend and get his power off in the right hand. You can be either inside of range, like way too close or way too far to avoid that right hand. And that's what he did. This time he was too close. He started getting too close. And that was a brilliant game plan. And that's what I expected him to do. But I never in a million years expected him to get a knockout. I expected him, if there was to be a knockout in Tyson Fury's favor, I expected it to be in the third part of the fight, in the 9th, 10th, 11th round maybe. He just worn down Deontay Wilder, and Deontay Wilder doesn't have his legs under him. He can't breathe because of all the weight that's that Tyson is putting on him, and he's gonna be worn down, literally. And that's not what happened. Tyson Fury was, in my opinion, following that game plan that I just mentioned, but during the midst of the fight, he landed a tremendous right hand, a hook right hand, or a jab right hand, a right hand that landed right behind the ear, and it put Deontay Wilder down, and that was the end of the fight, basically. Anything after that was just Deontay Wilder fighting on instinct. The fight was over at that time because Deontay Wilder really never recovered. His equilibrium was off. He never really had a good chin. People, give him credit for his chin because he survived against Luis Ortiz, but Luis Ortiz didn't have what it took energy-wise, stamina-wise, to keep Deontay Wilder down. If he had that, that would have been a knockout, an easy knockout in the first time they fought. And, people give credit to Deontay Wilder's chin because of that fight, but I don't agree with it. I think Deontay Wilder doesn't really have the best chin. He's been knocked out in the amateurs before, and you don't get knocked down and out cold in the amateurs, if you have a good chin. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is, And he was, Tyson landed that big right hand and the fight was over. Deontay Wilder never had the recuperative powers, and Tyson just kept putting it on him, and just going, and he kept going for his good straight punches that he's been practicing with Sugar Hill, the straight right hand, the jab and the straight right hand right behind it, keeping his left hand out, like as a measuring stick to deflect the Deontay Wilder's right hand. Brilliant. He just fought like a bigger, heavier version of Lennox Lewis. It was brilliant to watch. He fought a tremendous fight. After the fight was finished, he gave Deontay Wilder, a lot of credit. That's the other point that I want to talk about now, is character, right? Talked about the technical stuff, talked about the history of both fighters, or at least of Deontay Wilder or of Tyson Fury. Let's talk about characters and how both acted after the fight, right? Tyson Fury again showing class, gave Deontay Wilder a lot of credit, and a well-deserved win. He didn't overboast, he didn't brag, he didn't, say anything derogatory to Deontay Wilder. He gave him his respect, and that was it, Deontay Wilder, on the other hand, started making excuses, right? The first excuse was the fight was stopped too early, and I don't have a problem with that. You're a fighter, you want to go out on your shield, even if you feel like, even if you're going to die, you don't feel it, you're in the midst of the fight, you don't care if you die at this point. You're fighting, your ego is at stake here, your future is at stake here as a professional fighter, your credibility is at stake here. You can't lose by knockout, you can't get stopped, and that's what he was thinking. And I understand him, why stop the fight if I'm not just completely out, right? That's how fighters think. Of course, that's not the right way to think also for them, because you have a life after boxing. You have a life now. What if you keep taking punishment and you start bleeding in the brain and something bad happens to you? Who do you have to blame? You're gonna blame yourself, or you're gonna blame your trainer, or you're gonna play the referee that they didn't stop the fight, right? So I thought it was a good decision. I mean, to be honest, I could have seen it going another round maybe, and I could have seen Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury getting even stronger and landing really a definitive knockout punch. But I don't have a problem with the stoppage, and I don't have a problem with Deontay Wilder, complaining about the stoppage. He's a fighter, he should do that, right? But then he started making some really ridiculous excuses that just completely destroyed whatever respect I have for him. And he resorted to these knuckleheads ways, that he had after the first fight. Even though he got a gift decision in the first one, he also made excuses. And this time he started making some ridiculous, stupid ass excuses, like, I was wearing this attire and it was too heavy and it took away my legs. Listen, my man, if a 30-pound attire you were wearing for 10 minutes before the fight took away your legs, and you couldn't fight because of that, and took away your legs in the second round, like, I would understand, of course you're a professional fighter, but you have extra weight and you took it off, and you started fighting and you looked fine, but then later it started wearing you down, your muscle starts burning, and later in the fight it starts wearing you down. I understand that, right? But your legs were gone, like, from the first round. Get the hell out of here, man. You're not talking to people who never did sports before. Everybody works with weights. Everybody runs hills with weights. You take that shit off, you're good. You take that shit off, you start working, you're good. You feel light as a feather, you're good. It's later, like, if I put a suit on, a body suit on with weights, right, and I go for a run, or I just climb the stairs a couple of times, right, and then I take it off and I start running. I run for 20 minutes or for 30 minutes, no problem, but then I get gassed out, But if I don't do any of that and I go straight for the run, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna run for an hour, no problem. High speed, no problem. But when I first start running after taking off the suit, I won't feel it that early. And that's what the excuse that he's making, that's why it doesn't make any sense. That was the first thing that he said. And then he started blaming Mark Brilliant for the stoppage. And then he started, just making every excuse in the book and taking credit away from the winner of the fight. And that's something that I don't respect. And that's not a good sign for him as a fighter. Just shows me, that the fighter's mentality, the warrior's mentality, isn't really there like that, This was a guy that was a one-trick pony, that had ridiculous power, but he doesn't have what it takes to suck it up, go back to the drawing board, work on the things that he needs to work on, and come back a better version of himself, and try to win the hard honest way, like Tyson Fury did, you know? And that's what it takes to be a great champion. You know, a lot of people made it and got belts in the sport and defended the belts a couple of times, but doesn't mean that, you know, that you have what it takes to be an all-time great champion. That's what Tyson Fury has mentally inside of him. That's the quality that he has, you know? And I'm confident now that Tyson Fury has his demons in check. I hope also. And I think that Tyson Fury is damn near unbeatable, especially by these guys that are out there, you know? I think Anthony Joshua is going to give him a lot more resistance, because Anthony Joshua has fundamentals, and he's a combination puncher, and he's fast also, like on the inside. Tyson Fury is going to have to box this time from a distance and fight a disciplined fight. And, you know, Anthony Joshua has power too, and he can also go after you like that, you know? But I would still favor Tyson Fury to win by a decision, but it's not going to be a whitewash, you know? Like what happened with Deontay Wilder. And I do not advise Deontay Wilder to get in there again with Tyson Fury if he has that mentality, and if he keeps on making excuses and you know, putting the blame on others. If he, you know, if like, that's why I'm having like doubt about him taking Tyson Fury now, like immediate rematch. You know, I want to see him, you know, what I was hoping to see is him owning up to it, you know, just saying that I had problems in camp, whatever things. Don't even say that. That's also lame. Just say that, you know, things didn't come together on the night, which happens in the sport. And I promise you that in the third fight, we're gonna make sure that everything comes together in the fight. And if he wins that fight, then he's really the better fighter, and that's that. Just say it like that, you know? That's what you should say, and that's what the mentality that you should have. Go back to the drawing board and put it all together again. He didn't say that. He's not showing that. He's making excuses. This means he's in denial. This means in training camp, in my opinion, if you ask me from my experience, he's gonna be going through the motions, right? And he's gonna be worrying about all that extracurricular shit, you know, that has nothing to do with the actual technical aspect of the fight. And that's what he should be working on. Is the technical aspect of the fight, and for that you have to be focused, you have to be dedicated, you have to be willing to learn, and you shouldn't be shifting the blame on people, you know? So that's the mental aspect of it. The technical aspect of it, Tyson Fury is going to walk him down again, and he's not going to have answers for it, Deontay Wilder, and he's going to get stopped again, or he's going to get battered over 12 rounds. So that's why I don't advise him to take that fight. Now, if you talk to me like on a financial note, it's clear who Deontay Wilder has to fight right now. It's a no-brainer. He has to fight Tyson Fury again. He has no options right now. 0.0 options apart from Tyson Fury. He's going to get raped in negotiations with Anthony Joshua. If he tries to fight Anthony Joshua now, the fight is not going to make the amount of money that it could have made back in the day. And he's definitely not going to make the same amount of money that he would make in a third Tyson Fury fight. So he's going to look to fight Tyson Fury again due to financial reasons. You know? Hopefully, I don't know if he gets himself in check or not. I want to see Tyson Fury fight Anthony Joshua. I have no interest at all in seeing Tyson Fury, you know, fight Deontay Wilder again. I think that story is closed. I think Tyson Fury beat him twice. He beat him boxing. He beat him coming forward. What else is there to be seen there? He knocked him out. He's done everything that he said he was going to do. There is really no reason for the fight. It was a whitewash. It wasn't close. Let's move on and get an undisputed fucking champion up in this bitch finally. You know, we're getting very close. Let's fucking do it finally. You know, an undisputed champion. And and then Deontay Wilder can get his shit together on the side. You know, he can get a couple of fights in. Maybe he should fight, you know, someone like Joseph Parker, someone like that, someone good, you know, get his shit together, and then try to fight the winner of Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. You know, he still has the name. Sorry, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Deontay Wilder still has a name. He'd still get a title shot easily, but he shouldn't get in the way of an unification fight. That's how I see it as a boxing fan. I want to see a unification fight. I want to see Tyson Fury get in there and fucking fight Anthony Joshua in this summer. I don't want long layoffs. I don't want no excuses. I want these two at their best, which is right now. You know, both show tremendous aspects of their game. Both can box and both could punch. You know, it could be a snooze fest. Could be a snooze fest, which nobody expects, but it could be a snooze fest. But I'm still looking forward to seeing. You know, it could be again another, you know, Lennox Lewis against Evander Holyfield. It could be another one. You know, Evander Holyfield was coming off the biggest win of his career against Mike Tyson. I know that was a couple of years before that. I'm not sure when that was exactly, but this was like a year or so before he fought Lennox Lewis the first time. So he was coming off that hype. He was, after that Mike Tyson fight, he didn't lose. He was on a high. Lennox Lewis was on a tremendous high. He was beating everybody up. And they got in there and he gave us a shitty fight, you know? I mean, not a shitty fight technically, but action-wise, the fight was horrible. There was no action. It was a snooze fest. They were both very careful. They had a lot of respect for each other's. And it translated in the fight. You know, they were too, you know, hesitant to throw punches. They were very technical, especially Evander Holyfield. I expected a lot more from him. And it could happen when Tyson Fury fights Anthony Joshua, you know? And Tyson Fury could just box, and, you know, Anthony Joshua has what it takes, in my opinion, to cut off the ring and come after Tyson Fury. But he's not that good also at that, you know? He's not a hunter really like that. He's a good power puncher. He's a good combination puncher on the inside. If he manages to get you to exchange punches with him, or if you just stand in there and try to exchange with him, and you're a tall guy with tall arms, you need, you know, a long time to get your punches to land. From the time you fire off the shot till it lands, you need a long time. He's gonna get you with a hook or with an uppercut on the inside, and it's gonna hurt, and he might knock you out. So it's the fight that I want to see, regardless of what I think the fight could be. It's still the fight that I want to see. I want to see an undisputed champion, and Deontay Wilder comes next. You know, he comes next. He has no, even though he has a rematch clause, you know, in my humble opinion as a boxing fan, he has no priority, and he has no say in this. This is the fight that should be made. This is the priority that should be made. It should be made in the UK. I have no problem with it being made in the UK. And let's get that shit popping, baby. Let's do it. All right, man. So thanks a lot for listening. If anybody listened, pretty sure nobody's gonna listen to this video. Peace.